The man shoved his head into the refrigerator, frantically scooping the crushed ice into his mouth, seemingly relishing the experience. He then gathered the remaining ice and slurped it up like a starving person devouring jelly. Still unsatisfied, he incessantly licked the ice residue on the shelf until it was as smooth as a mirror, with not a single bit of frost left on the inner walls. Finally, the man let out a long sigh of relief and buried his head in the fridge, looking as comfortable as if he had entered heaven, his eyes closed in pure bliss. But suddenly, he burst into tears right there in the refrigerator, wailing like a child despite being in his 60s. It was a pitiful sight, as if he had suffered some immense injustice. However, he quickly wiped away his snot and tears, struggling to pull himself out of the fridge. As a burglar who had broken into this luxurious penthouse, he had been trapped for 2 whole days and nights. If he couldn't find a way out soon, he might not starve to death, but he would surely die of thirst. Escaping wasn't going to be easy, though. The penthouse was located on the 60th floor, with soundproof and shatterproof glass throughout. Apart from the locked main door, there was no other way out. The man felt around the door and discovered that it was made entirely of solid wood. He immediately ran his fingertips over every crevice, locating the weakest points, and began chiseling away with his knife. If he could just make a hole, he could open the door from the outside. The man quickly succeeded in chipping away the outer layer of wood, exposing the relatively softer inner layer. His confidence grew, and he hastily picked up the pace, his knife rising and falling, sending wood chips flying. However, as time passed, the damaged central air conditioning made the room increasingly hot. Large beads of sweat rolled down the back of the man's neck, and the water he had consumed from the fridge was rapidly depleted. He was so unbearably thirsty that he put down his knife and started searching the entire house for water. But ever since he had triggered the alarm, the water supply to the entire penthouse had been cut off. Not a single drop flowed from any of the faucets, including the toilet. He stared at the unflushed toilet for a long time, hesitating, but ultimately couldn't muster the courage to drink from it. He crawled into the plant area in the corner of the living room and dug out the automatic watering pipes. But when he unscrewed them, he discovered that they too were completely dry. Finally, the man's gaze settled on the luxurious fish tank in the living room. He tentatively dipped his finger into the tank, then brought the water to his lips and sucked hard. The salty, bitter taste of seawater rushed to his brain, making his already parched throat even more uncomfortable. Left with no choice, the man had to grit his teeth and endure his hunger and thirst as he continued to chisel at the door. Suddenly, the tip of his knife was blocked by something, producing a dull thud. Puzzled, he quickly felt around with his fingers. It didn't feel like wood. The man's heart skipped a beat, and he hurriedly stabbed at it with the knife tip. In the end, he discovered to his despair that the door had a layer of thick, sturdy steel plates sandwiched inside. Without professional tools, it would be impossible to open. In his desperation, he lay dejectedly on the coffee table, trying to use his walkie-talkie to call his accomplices for help, but they had long since abandoned him. He called out intermittently throughout the entire night, but no one ever responded.